Okay, then let's start the session then. Thanks everyone for joining the session, especially Suchit Sharma and Pawan and Faisal. So here we are connecting for training demo that as part of Kickstart, right? So we are providing a training for Oracle Cloud Procurement. So like today's agenda is like mostly like we'll introduce ourselves at the initial stage, then we'll see like what exactly this Oracle Fusion procurement is all about and what all the modules that we have inside the Oracle procurement and what are the business process flows that we have and what exactly the implementation approach that we can follow as part of UOM methodology that Oracle provides us and the training content and the plan that we have to cover for the Oracle cloud procurement, and if there are any further questions then we can take it off from there. So before the start, like I would like to introduce myself. Like this is Sanjay here. Like I am working for Dubai Holding currently. So I have experience of 11 years into Oracle Cloud, and I have implemented 8 implementations into Fusion, especially into the procurement. So I also like I've been also part of a couple of implementations into supply chain where it covers uh, product information in the inventory management and the costing as well. But my main area is into procurement. I've implemented Dubai Holding Entertainment, being on site there for A in Dubai and also for Dubai Parks and Resorts. This is my latest engagement, and I'm still engaged with the same Dubai Holding currently. So you can feel free to jump in and you can introduce yourself. You can start from Pavan or Suchita or anyone.
Yeah, hi team. My name is Suchet. I'm basically from Rajasthan and presently I'm working in Delhi in Dell Technologies field. Actually, the field of mine is different, like handling the customers' issues. So, this is kind of technical support thing. Uh, I've been there since last 8 years, but now I'm looking for changing the profile. I have done my BTech as well, but I haven't got any opportunity yet to get into any such field. So yes, that's why one of my friend had shared the link just to get involved and check what kind of course you are giving and what kind of training content you have. So I'm looking for a good career path. That's why I'm here. So thank you so much.
Sure, Sujat. Thank you so much. Yeah. So we can move on to Faisal. Anyone? Anyone would like to introduce? Right. So Sujit has mentioned yourself, right? You have experience of 8 years into support. So even
Hello,
the
can you hear me?
course. Yes, yes, Faisal, we can hear you. You can go ahead. Yeah.
Uh, Actually, my name is Faisal. I'm from Karachi. Uh, I have Oracle EBS, 8 years experience in technical side mm, and I have working on financial and supply chain management.
So technical means like completely into the reporting and integrations or like
Yeah,
perfect. So this course will obviously will cover the functional run on the functional end, like what all the configurations that we do to set up a system and
actually, I
look.
have techno functional and working on techno functional.
Awesome. Right.
Yeah.
Perfect. So, Anil, thanks for his- Okay, let's jump into the session then. These are the modules usually that we cover, but before that, right, as Suchit is non-background of this Oracle Cloud, like Suchit or like anyone, like this is completely an ERP system where if anyone has any business, right, like let's say example of Suchit is handling some kind of restaurants outlets in Rajasthan. So he has
Mm-hmm.
around like more than 500 employees working abroad. Like if you want to like currently you're maintaining all your books in your Excel or some kind of stuff, but you want to move into ERP. So you choose Oracle Cloud. Put all your things into an ERP system. Okay. So like
Mm-hmm.
let's start from the employees, like let's start from the suppliers or your customers or anyone. Okay, you can do your invoices here. You can do your purchasing, you can receive it. Like ERP is all about it gives you it's a tool like where you can perform all your business transactions here. So particularly today we are
Okay.
gathering particular for the procurement stuff. So the term procurement itself says like where exactly this terminology comes from. Like whenever you procure goods, right? Let's say as given example, Suchit is holding some restaurants or outlets in Rajasthan. So he wants to procure something from his suppliers to
Mm-hmm.
order like to serve a food for the customers, right? To
Right.
procure, you would be procuring it from your suppliers. Suppliers
Right.
could be like from different places. Like suppliers can be from Rajasthan or Hyderabad or Australia or US. To
Okay.
procure these things, we need suppliers in the system. That is where the supplier portal comes into picture.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Okay.
we can have this in detail. Like I'm just giving an overall picture, like how this procurement
Mm-hmm.
works in future. So once we have the
Okay.
supplier side, you can
Mm-hmm.
always go for a qualifications. Like you can have 1,000 suppliers who would be providing you uh, bread butter, let's say.
Mm.
But you want to qualify the supplier who is providing this. This qualification can be in terms of different questionnaires that you have. So if let's say if you have 10 questions, out of 10 questions, the supplier is qualifying for 9 questions or something like that. And if you feel like going forward and ordering goods with the supplier, you can qualify the supplier. Or else you can keep the supplier on hold for some time. Right? In market, you have different n number of suppliers who would be like supplying the same products. So it's up to the business. So whom to choose for. So the supplier
Correct.
portal and supplier qualification, this runs simultaneously. Like once you get in the suppliers, then you qualify them. So once the qualification is done, right? Like even the sourcing goes hand in hand. Sourcing is nothing but you have, let's say you have 1,000 suppliers, but you're not sure like from where to procure from. Who is giving at the cheapest price? Let's say like I am the one of the supplier. I am providing you these things with the cheapest thing. Let's say I'm providing you at $100. The other supplier is providing it $80. So this is where sourcing comes into picture. So it's up to the business again whom to choose from the sourcing part. And once everything is set up, then you have all your items in place. Then you have different departments altogether. Departments is nothing but you have finance department. You will be having food and beverages in your case, which if I give an example, you will be having retail. So different departments will be procuring things for their needs, for the department needs. Let's say example like F&B wants some Pepsi or chicken or like anything to be in place. Something is running out of stock. Then they would be procuring these things. That is where this comes like self-service procurement. They would be procuring from different suppliers. But once these requisitions are created, procuring is nothing but the self-service procurement always consists of requisitions, which we called different departments will request for goods from the supplier. So once the request is done, then it will go into buyer's queue. Not everyone in the office would be a buyer, right? So only we see like you have 500 employees. Out of 500 employees, let's say you have 10 departments, 50 each. So only you would be giving 10 members a requester role, like where they would be requesting, and there would be only 4 or 5 members who would be a buyers. So once the request is done, it goes into a queue of a buyer where the purchasing comes into picture. So the buyer decides whether to procure these goods from the supplier or not. So once the buyer procures, then the purchase orders will be cut to the suppliers. Then supplier will send goods to us. To us in the sense like to the business. So once the supplier sends the goods, then the business receives it in the system. So these are the different modules that we have in procurement cloud. So anyone has any question up to now, like in the different modules?
So basically, we can say procurement is the process wherein we are arranging our material or goods or business product
Mhm.
from the sources to deliver it to the customers,
Not to the customers, to the business itself.
to the business itself. Yes.
Because you're running a business, you don't have stock with you. You're going to procure something from your suppliers, right?
Okay.
In that case, these things come into picture.
Sure.
So this is completely only for the supplier point of, like a business point of view. If you're running out of
Mhm.
stock, you would be ordering. For ordering, you need suppliers. For suppliers, you would be like fetching out from different suppliers who is giving at cheapest price. So these are the
Correct.
different pointers. Once we jump in, this is the flow that we have for the procurement. As I mentioned, once your supplier is there after qualifying everything, then your requisition departments will create a requisitions. It's nothing but they need some stock at their place. They'll create it. Then it will go for quotation. Then it will go for a purchase order. Then you will be receiving it. After receiving, then you need to pay something for the supplier, right? Then your finance team will create an invoice. So once this invoice are created, then accounting entries happen and the payment will be done to the supplier. This is the procurement flow that we have, all in all. Getting into deep each at each level. So this is how it looks like. These are the business process flows that we talk about. Process flows is nothing but like, let's say you're onboarding a supplier. If you need to procure anything, you need suppliers to onboard it, right? So let's say you have identified one supplier. Let's say Sanjay is sending some goods, like he is like a wholesale supplier. Then you are contacting him. Then you will send one URL where you can have these suppliers onboarded into Fusion. So once this URL is provided to them, they will provide all the information. So from my end, I'll be putting in all the information. Then I'll submit. So once it is submitted, it will get verified from your end, Suchit and business. And once it is approved, then the supplier will be in place in Fusion. So this is how like usually the business process flow runs. So from your end, you will be sending a URL. From my end, I'll be providing the information. Once the submitted, it will get verified and approved. Then the system, you'll get have a supplier. Then you can order any goods from the supplier, whatever the goods the supplier is sending. So this business process flow talks about how we onboard a supplier. So once we onboard it, right? If you find the different suppliers like sending a similar kind of goods, then the supplier negotiations comes into picture. Negotiation is nothing but your sourcing part, which we have discussed. So Suchit Sharma and his business will get into a negotiation with multiple suppliers. Let's say you will create a negotiation, which is nothing but you will ask for, you will ask them to like quote it. Let's say RFQ is nothing but request for quotation. So they will quote it, then you will have different styles, then the templates which I'll try to show you during the sessions. So once these are created, right, these will have some approvals, which we'll discuss. So once approved, then we need to acknowledge, like the supplier need to acknowledge the RFQ. Then once they submit, then the same process. So the supplier would be submitting their responses, then the business from Suchit's side, like he'll be validating, then he'll be awarding the approval. So I see like majorly most of the businesses don't use this. I see like they feel it as very much complicated. So whenever I see like the businesses use it, they are in a huge number. So whoever is like holding thousands of crores of business, so they go for these negotiations. So wherever you see a small business, right? I don't see like even in my implementation, they never we have implemented, but they never use this because this would be time consuming. So
Mm.
this is how the process looks like. Once we onboard, then you can source it, or else if you're not sourcing, then you can create your requisition, which are nothing but different departments which we spoke about: food and beverage, retail, and your finance department, and different departments, warehouse department. They would be creating requisitions, then the purchase order will create, then you will receive, then the invoicing will be done, then the payment will be done. This is at the high level business process tool. And even this talks about the same thing. Like even for the requisition, certain businesses require some approvals. Let's say like Faisal is into F&B business, like F&B department from the same Suchit business. So he has around 50 members in F&B. F&B is nothing but the food and beverages.
Mm.
So food and beverages. So whoever is raising a request from a Faisal department, they can create a requisition. So let's say Anil is one of team member of Faisal. He is creating a requisition. It needs to go for Faisal's approval to approve it. Once Faisal approves it, only it will go for a PO creation. So these are some things that needs to be configured backend at the system to achieve all these things. So
Mm.
let's say like I'm just taking a simple example of restaurants and all. So you might be facing different clients in future, like manufacturing as well. So even it goes for the same. Whenever whoever creates a requisition, it needs to go for an approval, then it follows the PO process. So once you have, like, let's say Anil has requested and Faisal has approved, right? Then Suchit is buyer who is creating a PO. So once PO is created, it will go for supplier. So what supplier does, he takes care of the PO and sends the goods from his side. Let's say I am the supplier, I'm sending goods to you. So once I ship the goods, right, you need to receive in your warehouse. So in your warehouse, you're receiving at the same time in the system you would be receiving. So whatever the goods that was sent by the supplier, you should be receiving at the system as well. So once it is received, then there will be different things happening. So sometimes you would be receiving only partial quantity, or like you might feel some things are damaged out at the time of receiving. Even these can be done during the receiving part. So once it is received, then you can invoice it for the payment. This is at the high level business process flow that I'm talking about. All the process flows that I'm showing, right? These are the real
Right.
time process flows from my previous like 2 to 3 years, 3 years back process flows. It would remain the same. This is at the client level process flows, at the real
Mm.
time scenarios. So, any questions on this process flows that we have discussed? You can feel free to ask anything, not only specific to these content, right? Please feel free to ask anything. So, I know like this would be the approach for any implementation. Like Faisal mentioned, he has some 8 years experience into EPS. So this would be the approach, the Oracle Unified Method approach that we follow at the start of the project. So whoever is not into any ERPs, so this will be the phase like where the project starts, the design level. You will be given the scope, then the project plan, then you'll have a kickoff meeting with the business. Once the kickoff is done, then you will have brief sessions with the business, which is nothing but you will gather the requirements from the business, what exactly the business is all about, and how we can put their business into the system, accommodate their business into the system. So once we receive entire information, then you configure the things. Configuration is nothing but at the back end, you have certain setups where you set up things, then only the process flow runs. So these configurations, you have multiple tasks to be completed. It will be based on the business identity as well, like what exactly the business is doing. It's not mandatory that we need to follow all the configurations, but based on the business, we can configure the system. So once you have received all the information, once you have put it in the system as part of configuration, then you will validate. And transition means it will be moved into the production instance, which we call it as prod instance. Then once this prod instance is configured, then we go live. Go live is nothing but we release this Oracle Fusion to the business so they can use this ERP as a tool. It's part of their business process. So after go live, will any project will have an hypercare for 1 month. So whatever the support is required for the go live, we would be giving it for 1 month. So after 1 month, it's up to the business if they want to have a support for 3 months more or 5 months more or 1 year more. So this would remain the same, the approach structure across all the businesses. So we would be having kickoffs and the gatherings, then we configure, then we put it and validate. Mm. So as part of validation, there will be different things happening. That is covered in the next slide. So you have these things like you will be having different workshops. You will be having different functional workshops, and Faisal might be having like different technical workshops currently. So you need to prepare different documentation accordingly. Then once it is done, then we'll configure. Then once the configuration is done, then we'll provide trainings to the users from our end. Then the users will train from their end. That is we call unit acceptance, like user accept testing (UAT). Before UAT, we'll give key user testing from different departments. So once the testing is done, once the sign off is provided, then we can transit everything to the prod instance. So from there, it will go live. So this is the usual approach that any Oracle uh, project starts from and how it ends. This is the phase where it starts, and this is the phase where it ends. So, any questions here? So, I'd like to show you one more thing, like what is the content that we are going to cover as part of this. So, we'll show you the application overview, and also like we know, like we have guys like experienced, and we have guys coming from different industries. So we need to start, we need to start from the application overview, and this talks about how exactly the configuration packages and how we can enable the things, and what are the roles and accesses required to configure the things. And this is the place where like the configuration starts from. This is nothing but Suchit, as I mentioned, you are having your business in Rajasthan. That is nothing but your location.
Correct.
You have to put that location in the system. Business unit, the item org, then the inventory org. These are all your outlets. Item org is nothing but your all your items, the Pepsi or chicken or anything that you hold, like a t-shirt, anything. So
Correct.
these are the different configurations as part of it that we need to have to start the procurement configuration. These are the common configurations across. So we'll cover the configurations across with detailed information, and I'll be covering real-time scenarios as well. So these are the different configurations, and even these are the different configurations for the purchasing. This is for self-service, and this is for purchasing, and this is for receiving. These are mandatory configurations which are required as a functional consultant to like configure and set up a system. So until unless you cannot set up a system, then you cannot perform any transactions out of it. So once you set up a system, then you can perform these transactions. Even Fusion Crowd, as I spoke about requisitions, right? It has different kinds of requisitions, like the punch outs, the smart forms. People would be using like in real time. We would be covering this as part of the course. And as I spoke about the approvals, this will be a major task in any implementation. Like this is the place where it takes a lot of time to configure the system, and initial before configuring, it will take much time to take whatever is required for the business. So once that is done, then once everything is set up in a system until row number 70, then we can start creating the requisitions. Let's say we need to assume that we are the end users and doing these transactions. Until unless we don't do this transaction, we will not be in a situation to explain the users how the system works. It's all about training the trainers. So how I am training the future Suchit, Anil, or anyone, right? You would be training the same thing to the users. So once you configure the system, you would be giving a training for them. So these are the configurations required for supplier portal. These would be covered. And these are the transactions which are covered under supplier portal. Supplier portal is nothing but like the supplier will be giving, like the suppliers will be given one portal where they can have access to the same Oracle Fusion page. They can perform these transactions from there. And this is how the sourcing flow goes on. Like these are the sourcing configurations required to set up in the system. So once these are set up, then the sourcing transactions can be done. Similarly, it goes for suppliers qualification. Apart from this, I would also be showing OTBI reports. This would be an like added advantage. Like any functional candidate in any client experience, they would be asking the minimum requirement is like the functional candidate should know the OTBI report, how to create in the system. I'll be showing this as well. So these are the contents that I would be starting with. So if
Mm.
you have any other questions, then you can feel free to ask.
Yeah, two questions I have.
Hmm.
One is what are the skills and the tools which we require for all such things, and what should we learn about,